What would you do if the woman screaming in pain on your living room floor wasn't actually hurt at all, and the real victim was a 17-year-old girl who didn't even know she was being hunted? I still replay that afternoon like it belongs to someone else's life. My sister Sarah was 8 months along, or so we all believed, and the whole family had packed into my parents' backyard for her baby shower. Balloons, a gift table sagging under diaper boxes, my grandmother handing out mints from her purse like she always did. Then my husband Marcus walked straight through the crowd and hit her, not a shove. A full punch to the stomach right in front of 50 people. She doubled over and went down into the gift table, and for 3 or 4 seconds nobody moved because nobody could process what they'd just watched. Then it was chaos. I was screaming at him, asking what the hell was wrong with him. My mother had her phone out, already sobbing to a 911 dispatcher about her pregnant daughter being assaulted. My dad and my brothers had Marcus pinned against the fence. I was pounding on his chest with both fists, calling him something worse than a monster, while Sarah lay curled on the grass holding her belly and crying that something felt wrong inside her. Her boyfriend Danny was on his knees checking her for blood. Someone's kid was filming on a phone. My grandmother was pressing a hand to her chest, gray in the face. Half my aunts grabbed their children and ran for their cars like the yard itself was dangerous. I dropped down next to Sarah, trying to feel for movement. Some sign the baby was okay. She kept slapping my hands away. "Don't touch it," she kept saying. "It hurts too much." Even the neighbor, a retired midwife who'd run over the second she heard the commotion, couldn't get near her. Sarah curled tighter, screaming for everyone to back off. That's when Marcus, still fighting against my brother's grip, shouted the thing that stopped my heart a second time that day. "Look at her stomach. Look where I hit her. I didn't want to." Some part of me wanted to keep hating him in peace. But I looked, and there was a dent. A deep one, pressed into her belly, and it wasn't springing back. "That's not a baby," he said. "That's memory foam." I don't remember deciding to reach for her. My hands just went there on their own, pushing past her arms, pressing into the dent, and instead of skin and warmth, I felt foam edges. Velcro. A strap where a spine should have been. Sarah was screaming at me to stop, but it was too late. Other hands joined mine. My mother's, my brother's, pulling at fabric until the whole rig came loose. A prosthetic belly, professionally made, strapped around her waist like a costume. Marcus, still breathing hard, started laying it out. He'd followed her the day before, when she claimed to have an OB appointment. Instead, she'd spent 2 hours at a bar, then driven to a costume shop and walked out with 3 more bellies in different sizes. He had her laptop. She'd left it at our place weeks earlier. And the browser history told its own story. How to fake morning sickness. Week-by-week symptom guides, what to say at a baby shower to sound convincing. "That's not even the reason I did this," he said. And something in his voice made the whole yard go quiet. "I saw her at the hospital last week, following a teenage patient. Security's got 2 months of footage." My mother made a sound I'd never heard a human being make. Marcus pulled up photos on his phone. Sarah trailing a young girl through the maternity ward, sitting near her in the cafeteria, walking her to her car in the parking garage. The girl had no family visiting. Sarah had attached herself to her like a shadow. He kept going. The girl was scheduled to be induced the next morning at 6. Sarah had bought a car seat, bought nurse scrubs, been studying the shift change schedule, the exact window when the floor would be thinnest on staff. She told our whole family she was delivering at a birthing center that it turned out didn't exist. The plan, near as he could tell, was to vanish that night and reappear the next day with a newborn she'd claim as her own. There were notes on forging a birth certificate, a breast pump and formula purchased to sell the lie. She'd even been taking hormones to induce lactation. Sarah's face changed then. 30 years I'd known her, and I watched something slide off it like a mask coming loose. "You ruined everything," she snarled, ripping the deflated prosthetic off and throwing it at Marcus's feet. "That girl is a drug addict who doesn't deserve a baby. I would have given it a good life." She lunged for the door. My dad and brothers formed a wall. She broke past my father's grip and went for Marcus with her nails out, and my brothers tackled her onto the grass before she reached him. She was still screaming about her ruined plan when the sirens turned onto our street. The police pulled the fake belly apart on the lawn, and Sarah kept switching between sobbing that we'd betrayed her and hissing threats about what she'd do once she got out. They cuffed her while the neighbors gathered at the edge of their yards to watch. A detective got on the phone immediately. The teenager's name was Becca Torres, and within the hour, hospital security had moved her to a locked floor with an officer posted outside her door. A judge signed an emergency protective order that same night. Then another officer turned to Marcus and told him he was under arrest too. "Assault is assault," he said, "no matter the circumstances." My husband put his hands behind his back without a word while I ran inside for the checkbook. He spent that night in a holding cell. I spent it calling every attorney listed in my phone, getting nowhere until one agreed to meet us at 6 the next morning. By the time we got to the courthouse, the story had already made the local news and our last name attached to a headline about a shocking baby shower incident. My mother couldn't go to the grocery store without someone asking if she was related to that family. The evidence kept multiplying after that. A search of Sarah's apartment turned up 3 notebooks tracking Becca's daily routine: what she ate, which bathroom she used when she left the building, receipts for a fake hospital ID badge, and buried in old statements, something none of us had caught. Sarah had opened credit cards in my name and my mother's, running up nearly $50,000 combined in charges tied to medical bills that were never real. Danny, Sarah's boyfriend, showed up at our door a day later completely undone. He'd painted a nursery, bought a $2,000 crib, told his entire family they were expecting. When I showed him the search history on her laptop and over a year of it, he got physically sick in our bathroom. A psychiatric evaluation eventually gave her behavior a name: a delusional pregnancy disorder layered over antisocial traits. She genuinely believed the report said that she deserved a child more than a scared teenager did. It didn't excuse anything. It just explained the architecture of the lie. The case moved slowly after that. Plea offers, a fired public defender, Sarah insisting she'd represent herself because no one understood she'd been trying to save a baby. Marcus, meanwhile, pled guilty to misdemeanor assault and was sentenced to anger management and community service, which he did without complaint, knowing exactly how much worse it could have gone. At the youth center where he volunteered, he ended up telling kids the whole story: how rage can come from wanting to protect someone, and how it still isn't an excuse to use your fists. A 12-year-old named Isaac wrote him a letter about learning to count to 10 instead of swinging. He kept it in his wallet. Becca had her baby 3 days after the arrest. A healthy girl, born with a security guard outside the delivery room. She had no family of her own, but a social worker named Leia stayed with her through it, helping her find housing, apply for assistance, figure out how to be a mother at 17. A brother Becca hadn't seen in years, clean after a long struggle with addiction, showed up with flowers once he saw the story on the news, and slowly earned his way back into her life. Sarah went to trial 14 months later, still insisting to anyone who'd listen that she'd been doing something noble. The jury didn't buy it. Guilty on all 7 counts: conspiracy to kidnap, fraud, identity theft, stalking. 18 years, parole possible after 10 if she completed psychiatric treatment. She laughed when the judge read the sentence and said she'd rather serve the full term than pretend she'd been wrong. My family didn't come out of that year in one piece. My father had a minor cardiac scare from the stress. My mother stopped sleeping through the night for months. We sold the vacation house to pay back everyone Sarah had defrauded. We moved quietly, 40 minutes away, somewhere our name didn't mean anything to strangers, but we also, slowly, built something back. Marcus and I went to counseling to work through what it does to a marriage when one partner does something violent, for a reason the other can't argue with. My parents found a support group for families dealing with a child's crimes. Becca finished her GED, then a degree, and now counsels other teen mothers using her own story as proof that it's survivable. Marcus and I had our own daughter eventually. We named her Hope because after everything, we needed a word in the house that meant something good. She's 3 now, and she has exactly one aunt she's never met. And someday, when she's older, we'll tell her the truth. Not the whole ugly shape of it, but enough. That family isn't the same as loyalty. That love and accountability aren't opposites. That sometimes the person closest to you is the one you have to protect someone else from. Sarah writes letters from the psychiatric facility sometimes. We don't answer them anymore. Not out of cruelty. Just because some doors, once you understand what was behind them, don't need to stay open.